Patricia Rose, and I'm the self-published author of Remission, a collection of writing, which was released in October of 2020. As you can collect from the title, this is a full video on the self-publishing process with some specifications as to my experience going through Ingramspark, doing a poetry book, doing a color book, doing an illustrated book, and etc. But really the purpose of this video is to illuminate some areas where I was in the dark as a first-time author, trying to get Remission together last year. Although I did a ton of research, much like you are doing right now, there was actually a lot of issues that I ran into, little areas where I really just wasn't finding a lot of guidance that spoke specifically to my experience. So that is the entire reason for this video, is hopefully to add some value to that area. If you are a creative or a soon-to-be author, first of all, congratulations. I'm super excited for you, and I am here to help. So if you are interested in hearing about my self-publishing process, obviously just keep on watching. Okay, so the first step, I'm gonna ask you very nicely to finish your book. You gotta finish your book. That is priority number one. I know if you're anything like me, you're probably starting to do your research, you're a few steps ahead, but just do yourself a favor and be very present in each step of this process that you're in, because finishing your book is crucial. You really need to enjoy that part of the process before you jump ahead. So I just wanna let you know, first and foremost, priority number one is gathering all of your writing together. If it's, like a collection of writing like Remission was, or, if it's a novel or a continuous piece of work, just get it finished, okay? Just get it ready first, okay? That's number one. So I did want to start out kind of giving you guys a little bit of background on, where I came from as a writer at the time of self-publishing, because where you are in your writing career, or whether you've gotten your name out there, where and how you've done that, it definitely has something to do with your success. And I really think that you guys should take these things into consideration when you're looking to other people for guidance or for comparison, which you shouldn't be doing in the first place, right? But just it's important to know the kind of background of different people's experiences so that you're able to really give yourself some grace. For me, I think that I have a pretty average, no-name writer experience when I was publishing Remission, kind of, sorta. I just started taking myself seriously as a writer and artist just a few years ago, and kind of part of my process of kind of blooming out and taking myself seriously was creating a separate Instagram page just for my writing and just for my creative ventures. So that page was Patricia Rose's Words, and it very slowly started to gain some followers. At the time of creating Remission, I think I had a few hundred followers at that time, but at least I knew I had some readers, some people who were looking forward to poems. I definitely kind of paid attention to the amount of likes I had. At that time, I wasn't really into Instagram metrics, but at least I was looking at the likes on certain poems, and I was able to kind of tell which ones were doing well versus which ones maybe weren't so interesting. Use that to kind of understand which poems really should go in Remission, which ones were sort of like favorites, and then maybe which ones to kind of leave out. And at the time of publishing Remission, like I said, I had like a few hundred followers on that page, mostly people that I just knew who were showing support out of the kindness of their heart. Thank you guys again. So then I also had, I think, about like 200 posts on that page. So I had a decent amount of writing. Technically, if I only used the writing that I had put on my Instagram, I had enough for a poetry book because they're typically pretty small and short. But I also had a whole reservoir of writing that I had kept private, that I had in journals and documents and everything else. I'm sure you can relate if you're a writer, that I knew I was saving for something bigger and better down the road, and Remission was just a perfect opportunity to really take my best of my best, get it all put together, and put it out into my first piece of published work. Something I wanted to address is the size of your book. This is a big part of the gathering process. Like, what all are you gathering? How many pages are you going for? For me, I think I did overshoot that a bit. I wanted a big, huge poetry book, but that was because I just wasn't really grounded into like what I wanted to do for my first piece of work. I was looking to others too much for inspiration, and I know that this is an easy trap to fall into, especially if you haven't made your own name yet. You want to kind of imitate what does well, what other people are expecting or what other people like. I just want to tell you right now that this is more than likely your first book. You're obviously here because you don't have somebody who's going to be publishing this for you, like a publishing firm. You probably don't have an agent or somebody who's going to be marketing your book or somebody who's going to be designing your book or, you know, a whole lot of outside help. So please, 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 for the sake of you, don't look to a bunch of authors who had a ton of outside help and hold yourself to those standards. It's just not fair. Do the best that you can and keep it very authentic to what you want and what embodies your words the most. And just go that route, okay? That's another big crucial piece of advice I just wanted to slip in here. That's not even anything I had written down, but it really just hovers throughout these steps here, okay? So for example, for me, when I first started visualizing my book, I was being extremely rigid with my expectations. I was like, oh my God, I have to have a hardback book. I have to have a super thick book. And this was pretty much like my inspiration was Rupi Kaur, like The Sun and Her Flowers. I was like, oh my gosh, I need like a nice solid book. I will accept nothing less. But the truth is, when you're self-publishing and you're doing this all on your own and you're footing all of the costs, a book like this is not profitable for you. It costs too much to make, and it's a big, huge overshoot for when you're doing something all on your own for the first time. If you can pull this off, hats off to you. But I just want to tell you, if you end up publishing like a paperback book, or if you end up publishing a book that's shorter than this, there is no reason to beat yourself up. Like, most poetry books are shorter than this and are paperback, FYI. So if I had a piece of advice, like specifically surrounding your mentality going into self-publishing, don't hold yourself to the standards of authors who have a ton of outside help, who are already majorly successful. Be where you are. If you are a new author, if you're self-publishing, if you're doing this yourself, be where you are and be proud of that and be okay with that. This is not where you need to compare yourself. This girl is like on a different level of her writing career, okay? And that's okay. That is okay. But I just wanted to point that out. Okay, I wanted to actually show you the direct difference between two books here. So this is obviously The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur, 250-page book. This is Teaching My Mother How to Give Birth by Warson Shire. Teeny tiny book, itty bitty book. But I don't think that takes away from this book at all. I think this book is so wonderful. The last numbered page is 34. This book doesn't need to be any longer than 34 pages because this book punched me in my gut and dragged me by my hair across the room and broke my heart. And girl, it was so amazing. It does not need to be any longer than that, just for the nature of the writing in it. There's differences, okay? If this book was this long, I would have never survived it. So everyone is different. Major commercial success. I think this is like super talented and amazing, but you just have to understand that everybody is unique as a writer. Everybody's writing career is unique. Everybody's at a different step in their process. I really needed the reminder as I was gathering my work together that it was really about quality over quantity. And I hope that you guys don't take anything I'm saying as shade to other authors, but it's really good to understand that there is a big, gigantic variety. Okay, there's a huge variety. So wherever you fall in that, own it. Just be true to you. Then I have my book, Remission. So Remission, I really wanted it to be a nice solid book, which I think it is. It's about 140 pages actually. I think the average poetry book is around 100 pages. So that's just, you know, use that as you may. That's just a reference, but obviously you can be more than that. You can be less than that. I'm just here to tell you that that's fine. Just kind of know what you're going for so you know when your gathering process stops, like when you have enough and when it's time to maybe cut out excess or clean up, like just have an idea of how thick you want your book to be. So when you have enough writing for your book, it's going to be time to organize your pieces. So let's talk about the formatting software that you're going to use. Two main ones that come to mind for me is Google Docs or Microsoft Word. Google Docs is free. You can access it anywhere online. No need for like a membership. Microsoft Word does need a membership. you can access it online, but I think there's a lot more like gatekeeping around that unless you already have it. So I just use Google Docs. I had a great experience with Google Docs. So if you don't already have a Microsoft membership, I just recommend going with that. Then I would say, let's get your pages formatted. So in Google Docs specifically, it's under File, Page Setup. You can change the sizing of your page. So I went ahead and I changed that to a 5x8, like how I planned my book to be. And that way I got the most realistic visualization of like my text size on the page, how it takes up space, as well as when I was stretching out my pictures, seeing how they would fit on the page. You really want to get like the best possible idea that you can in real time of what your book is going to look like. And regardless, your pages are going to need to be sized at some point appropriately for your book. So that's just something I would recommend doing before you even get going. Also keep in mind that when you're building your book, whether it's like on Microsoft Word or Google Docs, what you're actually building is the interior of your book. So there's no need to put the cover on the first page. Your cover more than likely is going to be a separate file. So for me, the interior of my book started with this page here, Remission, a collection of writing, and then it was my foreword. Okay, so this picture was never a part of the actual document that I was writing my book on. So then I wanted to talk about actually organizing your book to pieces. So there are many ways to do this. A lot of poets will do it by a mood or a season, or they'll take one larger story and use poems to tell bits and pieces of the story chronologically. I think I did sort of a combination of both of those things. My book specifically kind of tells a story about self-worth, growing out of kind of like codependency. It's intense, it's good. Read it if you want to read it. So yeah, just consider how you actually want your book to read, what kind of journey you want to take the reader on. Just keep in mind that there are people who will open even a poetry book and read it from the first page to the last page in order. So if there is a larger story that you're trying to tell, organize your pieces to appropriately tell each piece of the story. So on the interior and the overall theme of your book, if you haven't already, I would recommend just checking out more books of a similar genre and just seeing what you like and what you don't like. Those details matter to the reader, even if it doesn't seem extremely obvious, they really do. So for me, what I found by kind of observing other books and how I like to see my own writing was that I liked Georgia font because it was sophisticated, it's not distracting from the writing itself. And then I did a size 12 font. So I did a nice, easy to read size of writing that wasn't so small that the reader would have to strain, and it wasn't so big that it gave the appearance of like a children's book or something of like a lower maturity level. I don't know, bigger font to me just reads younger age, and really just invest in that reader's experience and just use this as an opportunity to present your work in the best possible way, in the best possible light. So those details matter. So in regards to illustrations, you'll probably find a lot of advice that says to outsource your illustrations and to always use a professional. I allowed myself to use my own art. That was actually my intention from the very beginning. But if you don't feel confident in your own ability to create your illustrations, then please support artists. Pay an artist to illustrate your book. I'm sure that they would be thrilled. There is a lot out there. So Remission has a lot of drawings in it. They're all by me, but I did give myself the freedom to do like line work and colorful work. It was just too much of a headache to try to create everything the same. So I'll just kind of try to quickly flip through Remission. Ooh, that's not. There is a bunch of different styles of art in Remission. I allowed myself the freedom of just including whatever, whether it was a line work drawing, whether it was like a more complex drawing. I figured, they're similar enough because they're all by me, but you don't need to take it too seriously. Like for instance, this is a line work drawing, a watercolor picture. Other line work drawings, like this is obviously like a body. This is line work, but it's a little bit more intense. So this one was like a painting, so it's a bit more complex, but I allowed myself that freedom to put all of it in there. I still feel like it works. I regret nothing, okay? If you are using illustrations, do yourself a favor and don't be a perfectionist about this. There's no need to do that. Like I said, you can go reference some other really successful writers' illustrated books and you can see that kind of imperfect illustration style is perfectly fine. If you really, really feel like all you're capable of is like stick figures, or you just want your illustrations to be really cohesive, or if you have a really high standard for them, or you need them to look a certain way, Like I said, hire an artist, hire artists, pay artists, okay? Totally can do that. But if you're illustrating this yourself, give yourself some grace. That's my motto. You don't need museum quality illustrations to illustrate a simple poetry book. Just so you know, if your mind is telling you otherwise, I just want to clear that up right now. So I would think this would go without saying, but, you know, if you are explicitly using somebody else's illustration, make sure you credit and compensate them appropriately. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's free game. Are we good? Thank you. Your book's cover. You might be wondering, how the heck do I create a cover? So for the most part on Amazon, I've been told, as well as Ingramspark, what I went through, they have cover templates. So that is just like a document that you can download and you can upload it in Canva, which is what I did. Canva is an app. It does cost money, but I think you can get a free trial and it's inexpensive when it costs money. I think it costs me like $12 a month. But you can just upload that template that you're given from the website, and then you can just put your work over it. You can design your cover on there. Something I wanted to make sure to mention when you're designing your cover, especially in an outside app where you're using any type of fonts, I want you to be very mindful with Ingramspark specifically. They don't take T3 fonts or type 3 fonts, which you might be wondering what the heck I mean by that. I still don't even really know. All I can tell you is a lot of the fonts that are offered on design websites, specifically Canva, are type 3 fonts. And I actually designed my cover using a type 3 font. I submitted it for print and I got 50 books that were entirely misprinted. This whole area right here was just, it printed as dots, as well as on the side. I since removed that font on the side. Also, the whole back description was just smeary dots. And they said it was my fault because I should have known that it was a type 3 font. I don't know how I was supposed to know that. But what I can say to go around that, the second time I got my book printed after I had it corrected, is you need to flatten your file. So how do I say this? Design your cover, put your font on there, and then save it as its own image, and then re-upload that image a second time on a new template so that it's not recognized as font that second time. So you can't click into it and edit the font anymore. It's just considered one big cohesive picture, if that makes sense, just to potentially avoid a big, huge, fat catastrophe that I ran into with Ingramspark. Flatten your cover file before you upload it so there's no detectable fonts in there, because for some reason, you just never know, okay? They don't take type 3 fonts. I don't know how to differentiate or tell which fonts are type 3 or not. So what I would recommend for you is just to flatten that cover file if you're using them. If you haven't already, you need to pick your publisher. I know a lot of people go through Amazon because they kind of do a lot of it for you. Your book is automatically on Amazon print on demand. But as far as I'm aware, you have a lot less rights to your book. They do provide you the ISBN, which is like your book's social security number. Along with them providing that to you, they also sort of own the ISBN, and there's a lot of things that go into that. For me, myself, I really wanted to be able to distribute my book wherever and however I wanted. So I went through Ingramspark. I purchased my own ISBN and brought it to Ingramspark. I believe the website is called like Blocker. ISBN is about $100. So just if you're making a list of costs, put that down. ISBN is $100. Roughly. There's pros and cons as far as whether you go through like Amazon's KDP or if you use Ingramspark. I believe Ingramspark gives you more power as the writer and the owner of the work to publish. They also put you through more distributors. So Ingramspark will, it is up to these distributors to grab your book, but as long as you discount it appropriately, they should. They grab mine at least. But you can get on Barnes & Noble. You can get on Amazon anyway, Books A Million. So for me, my book is available way more places because I went through Ingramspark versus if I just went through Amazon, it would only be available on Amazon. All right, so here comes something that you might not want to hear if you're leaning towards using Ingramspark. Don't ignore these videos and these reviews that say that they have bad customer service, because they do. I hope you never encounter an issue where you need their customer service, but if you do, please keep in mind that you're going to need a lot of patience, and you might need to be a little bit assertive. If somebody says they had a bad experience, don't just write them off because that's not what you want to hear. Like, actually consider that just as much as you consider the recounts of good experiences, because that's something that I did with Ingramspark. I just wanted to work with them so badly because I wanted my book to be a hardback. I was just ignoring all these mentions of the terrible customer service that other authors received. And I just thought I wouldn't need assistance and that I could handle it on my own and that I wouldn't have to actually deal with them directly. But I did. Of course I did. So what had happened, I'll try to make this as simple as possible. What had happened was I didn't realize my cover file, it wasn't flattened. So those fonts were like detectable in the cover file. When you upload through Ingramspark, their uploader will actually go through your file and try to check for mistakes or errors, and they'll either approve it or not approve it right then and there. So they approved my cover, they approved the interior of my book as well, and everything was good to go, at least as far as I knew. This is my first time doing this. So I wanted to self-distribute. I had my own online store I had set up through Square, ready to go. I ordered my first little batch of books. At the time, I paid for $50, and I got this big gigantic box of books that was entirely misprinted, unsellable. Like I said, the font just printed as smeary dots. Like, I wanted to cry. I contacted them about this. They told me not once, not twice, but I think 3 different times that they couldn't do anything for me because I was expected to know that they don't take T3 fonts and that this was an error made on my part, even though their uploader approved my file, scanned it for errors, all of that. Like, I was just supposed to, the way that they were speaking to me was as if type 3 fonts being old fonts was common knowledge. And I had to ask for the manager repeatedly in all of my emails. I had to call multiple times until somebody actually acknowledged that what they were doing was really unfair and inappropriate, and they actually corrected it for me. But it took me telling them, I'm gonna tell my followers what you did, and having to leverage that, which I would never want to do, but I had to do that in order for them to actually do something about it, which I think is kind of ugly. So I had not a good experience with them. They luckily rectified it, but the length I had to go for them to do that, I really had to twist their arm backwards to get some help. So I hope that that doesn't happen to you, but I have to be fair and really disclosing my full experience. So please don't look over that and don't just take my word for it. But if you're gonna deal with Ingramspark, their customer service is not great. I haven't heard the most amazing things about Amazon's customer service either, but it leans a little better than Ingramspark's customer service. So marketing is not fun at all. You're gonna feel very annoying, but you need to do this. I'm obviously not a professional, but I can tell you that you need a place to exist online as a writer, and you need to be able to reach new and existing readers and let them know about your book. I recommend trying to generate as much hype around it as you can. A lot of authors will actually start posting about their books before they're even finished. So just start generating the hype, start getting people excited, show them sneak peeks, show them behind the scenes. You can use all that for marketing. You might feel a little self-conscious about it at first, but it has to be done because you never know which post or which day is going to reach somebody new or is going to resonate with someone and actually garner that interest that you need. But if you're in the business of trying to make money from your book, you definitely need to generate some excitement around your book and get people looking forward to it so that the day that it releases, you can actually see that some sales have come in. I also wanted to mention pre-sale because this was kind of a new concept to me when I was self-publishing. So pre-sale can be really helpful and it can alleviate the costs of publishing on you. So initially, if you're self-distributing, if you have your own storefront, you have your own website, you're gonna foot the costs of purchasing your product initially, right? Before somebody buys the product off of you. And then at that point, you hopefully make a profit. But what you can do is you can pre-sell your book. You can pick a date before the book is actually released where people can purchase the book. So for me, that was a month ahead, and I did get some pre-sales. And what I did is I used that money to actually purchase my first batch of books. So I was able to purchase my product without reaching into my own pockets. It's the people paid for the books before I had to come out of pocket myself. So it's just a quicker and a cooler way to do it, to where you don't have to be out of money hoping to make money back by the sales. People can actually just pay for your product before it comes in. So pricing can be a difficult decision. I think that a lot of poetry books go for pretty cheap. They're usually between like $10 and $15, $10 and $20. I went ahead of that and I did my book, I believe it was $21.99, but I stood firm by that because my book is, like I said, it's 140 pages. It's a bit longer than other, like your average poetry book. It's also illustrated, it's also in color. And if it was a hardback, it's not a hardback, it's a paperback, but if it was a hardback, it should have costed even more. But you'll notice that the more effort you put into your book, as far as if it does have illustrations, if it is color, if it's gonna be a hardback, the whole reason I didn't even do a hardback is because my book became unprofitable once it became a hardback. There was gonna be so many costs involved with getting it printed that way that I wasn't gonna make any money on that book unless I sold it for over like $30+, which is just not realistic to think that people are gonna buy a book for over $30, especially from someone that they don't really know about yet. You wanna make your book accessible, you wanna make your book competitive. So like I said, most poetry books are in that lower price range. You're gonna wanna research your genre, do a quick search on, in bookstores, online, whatever you need to do, but just kind of get an idea of what the average book in the genre costs, and then you wanna be competitive. So maybe you wanna be a little bit lower than that, maybe you wanna be kind of right there, you wanna drift around it, but you don't wanna get way too far outside of that range, because then people might think it's unreasonable to spend so much on your book. Especially if you're a newer author, you have to take that into consideration too, that it's really important just to get the book into people's hands. For me, I was really torn because so much hard work went into my book. I just knew that my book was really quality, and I knew that it wasn't a $10 book. I took a little bit of a risk and I priced my book at $21.99. I think it did totally fine. But if you're gonna price your book on the higher end, make sure you have your reasons for pricing your book on the higher end and leverage that and market it that way so people understand the value that they're getting out of your book. And so with Ingramspark specifically, you can toggle the prices. It can show you in real time what your profit is gonna be, and it's gonna shock you. It's really low. They take so much out of like printing and distribution. So for me to sell my book through like a distributor, I priced it at $21.99. My profit ended up being about $5 a book. So if you buy my book on like Amazon or Barnes and Noble, even though you're paying $21.99, I'm only getting like $4 and some change or $5 and some change off of each individual sale. The author actually makes such a small portion off of the book, so that can drive you to want to price your book higher so you can see that small amount grow a little bit. So for me, that was a big motivator to do self-distribution. I was able to purchase my book at the discounted rate, which I think it was like $5 or $6 a book was the actual cost of me buying the book. And then I sold it for $21.99. So then I was making about $16 a book when I distributed it myself. However, when it went through a third-party distributor, I make like $5 a book. So you see the huge difference. I can either make $16 a book or I can make $5 a book, which is why I wanted to self-distribute. Even though I knew I was reaching a smaller audience than like Amazon and stuff, I figured it was still worth my while to reach who I could through my own personal website and to, make more money off of something that I made. On distributing, there's a lot of benefit to self-distributing. I won't lie. Like I said, you're gonna make a higher profit off of your book. You are able to connect with your readers more personally. I think it was the first 25 books I sold, I personally signed. You have the opportunity to add personal touches like that. You have the opportunity to package your book really nicely. I personally wrapped all my books in a bow like it was a present, and I put it in tissue paper. It was like in mauve colored bow and tissue paper, and then I wrapped even the boxes that they were shipped in were black, and they had thank you stickers. It was all very customized, and it was made with so much love. And I knew that the people who were ordering on Amazon were just getting like a manila padded envelope, and however the book came, it came. But I had so much power over quality control and presentation by self-distributing. I also made a bigger profit, so I feel like I was able to give people a better product. not like a better product per se, but like a whole better experience as far as purchasing and receiving the product. Keep in mind that it does take time and energy to package books, to go to the post office, to, you know, the whole process. Like, you're running a business as well. And I know a lot of people don't want to deal with that. So it might be easier for you to just solely sell your book through third-party distributors. But I just want to let you know that for me, it was definitely worth the trouble. I don't regret self-distributing. I have like 1 or 2 books left, so my website is nearly sold out right now. And I think at that point, I'm just gonna allow Remission to live on Barnes & Noble or on Amazon and just be there. And then my next book, I might self-distribute again, but I'm not gonna go through the trouble of ordering another batch of books, paying for another batch of books, and doing all of that right now. I'm just in a place where I am a little bit too busy to be doing that. All right, you guys, so that is everything I had written down. I'm sure this video is already super duper long, but I hope it was at least somewhat informative to you. If there's anything I didn't answer in the video, if there's anything you're curious about, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment and I'll get back to you. And again, my name is Katricia Rose. My book is Remission, a collection of writing. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Indie Books. I'll leave links below if you're interested in checking out my work, as far as my Instagram account, you know, where to find me and all that good stuff. I really appreciate you watching and taking the time today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.